Welcome back to Shootin' the Sport, where I sit down with your favorite coaches, athletes, and people in the industry to just shoot the, you know. I'm Matison Little, and today I get to sit down with fellow sports reporter and friend of mine to talk all things sports broadcasting. We talk the good parts, the challenging parts, the advice we wish we got day one, and everything we've learned along the way. Kacy Standohar, welcome to Shootin' the Sport. How are you?
I'm great, Madison. How are you?
Good. This is so exciting. We've been trying to get this together for a couple days now, but you're super busy being a anchor sports reporter in Chicago, so that's priority, but I'm excited we're finally doing it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for being so understanding. For anyone watching or listening, I kept pushing this back because I kept getting called into NBC, which is a blessing, right? Like, it's great to be working and I'm just happy to be staying in it. But at the same time, it's like, I was like, sorry, the next day. So thank you for understanding. I know you get it because you're in kind of the same boat. So,
Right. It's all good. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about. We're both sports reporters, but in different fashions nowadays. We're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will. I'm completely freelance sideline, and you are working NBC 5 in Chicago.
Mhm.
So you definitely have more of a steady job than I do at this point, but we both have similar end goals. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting in this industry that is ever evolving, the different
Mhm.
kind of paths that we can all take that may
Right.
look so different, but ultimately we all have the same end goal.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the cool thing about NBC is I'm also freelance there. And so a lot of people don't know that, but what's kind of cool about that is, I get paid every time I'm in the building, every time I'm working or out covering a story. Um, a lot of markets are moving to that model where places are freelance everywhere. And so pros and cons, right? Like maybe it doesn't seem as much money and there's health insurance that you have to get on your own, but the pro is that I can go do other things, right? Like I can do baseball tournaments for college conferences. I can do softball tournaments. I can work football and do other things, be an analyst, be a host. So it's cool because you get your variety still, but it has been nice to get a little bit of consistency in the studio and out and reporting. But yeah, so I agree with you. It's like there's no one path or way into this whole thing. But I think what's really cool about you and I specifically, and just women that do this too, and men, is we're just finding other ways, especially with social media and
Right.
everything going on right now, AI, even just it's so crazy.
Right, and I think that if you would have told me when I was in college that things were going to change so drastically in the 5 years I've been out of college, like it
Right.
probably would have scared me. How have you seen things change? You're a bit older than I am, so you've been in this a bit longer. How have you
Yeah.
seen the industry kind of change from college Casey to
Yeah.
now?
I'm totally aging myself, but when I graduated college, Instagram was like just coming out. So Instagram was like a new thing, right? And like no one really knew what it was, and people were just like posting photos of their food and using the weird filters. And now social media is used for advertising, for sports reporting, for digital, for games, and it's blown up, right, in the past 10, 15 years. So it's crazy to think about how now you can major in social media marketing and you can do digital sports broadcasting and all these other things. So I've seen it change a lot. And when I was in journalism school in college, I was doing a lot of print based reporting, news and sports. And I thought I wanted to be like a magazine editor for like Teen Vogue or like, whatever. And then I did an internship in college at a local news station, and I was like, oh, I want to do the TV side. Like, this is cool. This really like fuels my fire. This makes me feel alive. And so I went more into the TV side and started as a producer. And you hear like print is dying, local news is dying, and part of that is true. And so many things now are streaming, like, right, like a lot of the regional networks that you and I are chasing jobs at are not hiring because they're budget and downsizing, and they're getting bought out by whatever. So it's a weird time to be in this business, to either join it or to kind of be right in the middle of your career or like early in your career, because it's changing so much. But I still think there'll be a place for it, right? Like whether, you and I both love baseball, right? And so it's like whether the teams own the rights to the network or whether, and they're doing that a lot right now already, or whether it's a network again that picks it up, like whether it's on Disney Plus, whatever it might be, there will be a place for reporting and being an analyst and being a play-by-play. And so, we, the cool thing about it is we just have to be able to pivot, right? Like
Right.
we just have to be like, okay, well that's done. So what can I do next? Or how can I still stay in this and, you know, feed that part of me that loves it, but be able to roll with the punches too.
Right. And I think it's interesting that we are seeing, like you said, the networks are kind of downsizing, things
Right.
are changing, but there's this growing interest in our career. And so
Yeah.
you have a lot of students either in college or going into college, even new grads that are trying to find a place in this industry that when you're looking at it at a broad, like at a broad picture, like it's shrinking. And
Right.
so it makes things that were already competitive even that much more competitive. And I know
Yeah.
you and I have talked about it a lot. It's hard in those moments to kind of stay confident in knowing that you're going to make it. When you get in those moments, because I know we both do,
Mm-hmm.
what is your why? Why do you keep going?
That's such a good question. And I know you and I text each other like, hey, feeling down today, feeling crappy about this. I didn't get this gig, or I'm feeling like I'm not getting enough work. Like, I love that we have people in our lives that we can go to when we're just not feeling it, right? Like, we're just like, ugh. And I think it's the why is other women like you who pick me back up out of my rut and say, no, you're going to land the next thing. Like, you're going to be fine. You're going to pick up some more work this summer, whatever it might be. And also the why is like, when I think about leaving it, sure, maybe there's better money in marketing, and sure, there's maybe more stability in another role, but it's like what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? Like what makes you want to get up, put makeup on, go to work and like do this. And it's always that, right? It always comes back to I love reporting, I love telling stories. I love the energy of a news studio or like a live game covering a game. And so for me the why is like moments like even like last night when my story ended up airing in the beginning of the 5 p.m. show. I was like, wow, like this is finally what I feel like I should be doing. Like this, I know I'm on the right track when things like this happen.
Right. I just talked to a current student at Clemson, and
Mm-hmm.
she was asking me just the various questions about the industry. And one of her questions was, what do you think people in my position should know? And that's
Mm,
exactly what I told them. I was like, you need to find your why early.
yeah.
Find your why and lean on that why. For me, it's
Mm-hmm.
storytelling. I've always been nosy. I've always loved telling stories and grew up in a sports family. So being able to combine the two, that's always been my why. And obviously, just
Sure.
I'm not made for a 9 to 5 job. So that's also a big factor. But when you're looking back at yourself in that position, college Casey, what advice or what do you wish she would have been told in that position?
That goes deep, right? Because I think when you choose a college at 18, it's such a big decision. I was just talking about this with some colleagues. Like, I don't feel like 18-year-old kids should be making decisions on where they should go to college. Because you don't know. You're just like, oh, I want to go where my friends are going, or I want to go because I love this school and I love this team. Like, it's a big decision. And so, as happy as I am that I went to Youngstown State and I got a great degree in journalism and I had a great experience, I do wish like college Casey would have like went to a bigger school, like an IU, like
Right.
or Ohio State, like maybe a Big Ten school, because not just necessarily for that experience, sure that's fun, but like for the networking opportunity that comes with that.
Right.
When you go to a school like that, like a Mizzou or an OU or a Syracuse or whatever, or Northwestern, it's like you meet people in the same field as you that are either have made it or are going to make it or whatever. And so I just feel like I didn't know that then. And so I would tell younger students and um, people, studying this to like do it now, do it early, network as much as you can. I kind of reinvented myself at like 27 or 28. I was like print and then I went into marketing and then I was like, okay, well, I want to do the TV side again. I want to go back into it. It pulled
Right.
me back, right? And I am happy I did that. But at the same time, it's like, I know that like I started late. And so you feel that comparison game of like, oh, people younger than me are already ahead of me, or people are getting this opportunity or whatever. And it feels scary. But I'm trying to challenge myself to remember now in my 30s that like you're right where you're supposed to be. You're right on time, right? And the right things are going to find you. And this business is not fair. And that's what I would also tell young Kacy is like, it's not always going to be fair. It's not always that. I was just talking to a group of students at DePaul, and I told them, they're like, how do you deal with disappointment in the business? And I was like, oh God, how much time do you guys have? You know? Um, and they were like, how do you deal with those challenges? And I just said, you have to accept that it's going to be fair. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to have tough skin, and you have to just lean into like what you know is true about yourself and trust yourself, and that you'll find the right things. So
Right.
yeah, but you know how it is. It's like sometimes it's not even the best person for the job that gets the job. It's the person that was the most hungry, or that reached out at the right time, or that was persistent, or whatever it might be.
Right. And I think comparison is something that I struggle with personally. I mean, scrolling LinkedIn, you see someone that got a job opportunity and you're like, I would have loved to have that job. And like,
Yeah.
even sometimes you may see that post and think, I am maybe more qualified for that job. But
Sure.
like you said, it's about timing, it's about who you know. And
Hmm.
there's been instances where it's been the opposite, where I'm like, oh, I got this opportunity. Like, there's definitely people that are more qualified
Yeah.
than I am.
Right. So it
Oh,
works both ways, you know?
right, right. When you're in those down moments, I know you said earlier you lean on like other people in the industry to
Hmm.
pick you back up, but what is something that you do, or like maybe just something you tell yourself that kind of helps you get away from that comparison? Because I'm open to all tips, because that's
Yeah.
my Achilles heel is
Yeah.
comparison.
We're never going to be perfect at it, right? Like even like yesterday, I find myself like looking at that kind of stuff and getting wrapped up in it. So I'm not saying like I'm healed and I don't do that anymore, because that's not true, right? Like,
Right.
but I would say like um relying on your support system. I have a boyfriend who's a football coach and kind of in the same world as us, and he gets it, right? So I'll go to him and be like, man, I'm feeling really crappy about this. And he just reminds me, like, your time is coming, you're at where you're supposed to be. And he always tells me that it takes guts to put yourself in the arena, right? Like, it takes guts to put yourself out there and try for a job that you may or may not get, that you may or may not be qualified enough for. 7 years ago, I never would imagine I'd be where I'm at now.
Right.
I moved here in 2018, and I didn't even know how to get into sports media. I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I even start? Who do I talk to? And then you get to a place 7 years later that you're like, wow, my story is leading the 5 p.m. show. I'm doing what I love to do. This is fun. This feels right. And so I think a good tip is to reflect back on when you're feeling down, like, what did Matison a year ago wish she had that she has now?
Right.
How has she grown? What opportunities have you done? How are you better now than you were a year ago? Or who do you know now that you didn't know a year ago? So my friend just posted about like the plane theory. Like a plane cannot go from like 0 to 90, like, because it would throw off the cabin and everybody would feel sick, and the suitcases would fly everywhere, and you can't do that fast, right? It would cause like a crash.
Right.
Planes move at this pace where you don't even like feel like they're moving, but they're moving. It's like the 1% theory of like, you don't feel like there's progress and you feel behind, but you are making progress, and you can't go from 0 to 90 or you'd crash out. So like, I really like that theory that she kind of shared on social media, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately because it's so true.
Where do you think your biggest area of growth has been since starting in this industry?
The confidence in myself to be able to feel comfortable when that red light goes on, right? Or be comfortable asking a scary coach a question, or be comfortable anchoring in front of the city of Chicago, reading a prompter, telling these stories. Like, I was terrified in my audition, and I'm glad I got the job, and I'm so grateful. But like, I was sweating. My hands were so sweaty. Like, but at the same time, it's like you build that confidence, and you're like, I'm ready for this. I've done enough to now to be ready for this moment. Like, I'm good. So, yeah, I would say my confidence has definitely increased. There are days where I still feel not confident, or I
Yep.
overthink something, but it's gotten better.
Right. I agree. I think that the ability to be myself on camera rather than trying to fit the mold of who you see on TV. Like that
Yeah.
takes confidence, and that's been a huge growth area of growth for me. I've seen you do it, eating concession food in a baseball tournament, having fun. What kind of, when you look at confident Kacy, what does that look like? What does
Mm.
being confident look like to you in this job?
I think there's an element of like appearance that goes along with it, right? Like I feel like when I look my best, I'm performing my best and I'm feeling cute in my outfit. I do my makeup the way I like to do. I wear my dark red lipstick, right? Like all those things help me feel, and it feels superficial, but it does in our business help you feel ready. Preparation is everything, and I know you know that, but like preparing for games, talking to coaches, meeting with staff, talking to a player or two, going over your notes 1,000 times to make sure that you are ready if anything gets thrown your way because it's live TV, that you're going to be prepared for the moment. So I just feel like when I prepare for a game, I go into it more confident. When I know the team and I know the people, and it's helpful when you cover the same team too. Like if you do like a whole season with one team,
Right.
you get to know the people on staff, the SID, the fans, and you just feel more comfortable there. So it's really nice to be able to have some consistency, but in our lives as freelancers, we don't often get that consistency. We might be thrown into, a Big East game, and then you might do an ACC game the next night, and then so it's just kind of random, and that makes it a little bit harder. But I also feel like that's why we should be proud of ourselves because we're able to kind of like turn on a dime and like fix it.
Right. And I feel
Mhm.
like preparation is something, it's a big misconception about people in our position,
Yeah.
especially as females a lot of the time. Like, I'll be asked in live events, like, oh, who's telling you what questions to ask? And I'm like, nobody. Nobody's
Yeah.
telling me what questions to ask.
Yeah.
And it goes back to doing the extra work, preparing for players that haven't even stepped foot on the court this season, because what if they do? And then
Right.
you
You
have to
never
be the one
know.
that knows it. I also love what you said about looking cute, and I'll pull that clip for my boyfriend when he tells me that I don't need new clothes because I do.
Right, I know. I was just talking to my friend Natalie, who's from Detroit, and she works for the Pistons, and she and I like will talk about like doing certain skincare treatments and buying new clothes and then or renting from Rent the Runway, and she's like, "Oh my God, we're delusional. Like we don't need anything, but we just think we do." And
Right.
so I just hide that from my boyfriend. We just don't have to tell him, right? You know what I mean? Just hide the bags. No. But yeah, it does help. It does. And there are ways to like do it on a budget, right? Like
Right.
Amazon's been helpful. Um, Even like doing Rent the Runway and doing those things where it's like I'm not owning this, I'm just renting it and giving it back because then I have a fresh look every time. So that's always fun.
What's your biggest like style tip to people trying to find
Mm,
their, I know we all want to find our identity in like
sure.
even our appearance, but what's your biggest style tip to people in the industry?
I've always wanted to do that color matching thing. I don't
Right.
actually know what my colors are, but I feel like they'd be like reds, oranges, sometimes like a bright royal blue I really like with my hair color. So find the colors that you feel like pop on camera for you, especially if you're in the business. Like find what feels good and just be functional, right? Like because it's one thing to have like these crazy heels on and then you're in pain all night. And I think for like baseball and softball, it's different because you can wear cute tennies and like just kind of make it more casual but still
Right.
elevated. I always stick with like bolder colors. I don't do a ton of patterns. Some like last night I did like a tweed, but I try to stick with like a bold color. And I always err on the side of, how do I want to say this? I always err on the side of like more conservative, and I don't mean like
Right.
politically. I mean like just,
Modest.
yeah, modest. Yeah,
Yep.
modest is a better word. Just because a lot of times I'm covering high school athletes and like I don't know, I don't work in the NBA, so I feel like I can't take as many risks as far as like outfits that are a little bit more jarring or sexy. Like I love when the girls do that. I just feel like that's not my style. So like
Right.
do what you're comfortable with. Even if I have like a lower cut like dress, I'm like, is this weird on camera? I don't know. Like I just feel like weird. So I'm always like in a turtleneck.
Right. Me too. Me too. I get that. What is in your game day bag? What do you always
Mm.
have with you?
Okay, so I do a couple of granola bars because I'm one who like is on the go and maybe didn't eat beforehand. So I'm like snacking at halftime or in between quarters. Um, I always have my IFB, both ears, just in case one of them doesn't feel good that day or I want to change it up. I have like 7 pens. My cousin got me these like really like heavy, nice pens.
Nice.
A notebook. I'll have my clipboard in there for football, which is like waterproof. Because I'll never forget the time I didn't have it, and it might have been before I got it, and it was raining for the game, and so I was in a raincoat. I looked like a wet dog, and none of my notes were taking because the water was dripping on me, and I couldn't get like a good note. Like it just wasn't working. So I use my notes app in my phone too, but even then, like I like to write things down on paper when coaches are speaking. I always have like 3 lip glosses and 3 lipsticks
Yeah,
just in
right.
case. That's probably it. I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you
I
have
like
anything else in yours that you would recommend?
I always have my iPad in there just in
Cute.
case I need to do some like last minute, stat checks
Research.
or
Yeah.
anything like that. And yeah, just making sure. Oh, I always have a rain jacket if I'm working outdoor sports. Maybe an umbrella just for like in between
Yeah.
if I have to go to a like different area. I don't obviously we can't use those on the field, but
Right.
yeah, pretty similar. All the little touch up things, a snack, of course, usually something sweet and something salty.
Yeah,
And
and
then
water is a
gum.
good thing to have too, because I feel like I always get nervous and lose my voice right before I go on air. So I need like that extra water.
Right, and I'm always a gum person. I always have to get a couple chews in before a
Yep.
halftime interview. I don't want to be the
Little
reporter with
refreshing breath.
stinky breath.
Yeah. I know, I probably have the worst coffee breath half the time, but
It's
yeah,
all
I'm
right.
sure they
Caffeine.
understand.
So we've talked a lot about kind of where we're at now. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you see your career going?
I love that question. It's so exciting to think about that our best days are still ahead of us. I would love to be either full time at NBC 5, which would be awesome to be like one of the lead sports anchors there, or doing more sideline for like Fox Sports, maybe some college football on ESPN or Fox. Um, my dream sports to cover are college football and pro baseball. So like working in Major League Baseball at a regional network would be awesome. I'm kind of open ended. I just want to feel like I'm challenged. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to take my career to a new level where I'm like, just feeling like there's progress. And
Right.
I feel like any of those things would make me feel that way 5 years down the road. Um, and also, I want a family. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat around that. I think a lot of women in our industry, maybe wait to have a family because of the demands of the job, but also women like Laura Rutledge and Jenny Taft and now Erin Andrews, and they're having children and making it work. And so I feel like that's so refreshing to see. That there could be a balance in some way. I know that's a weird word, but like it's great knowing that like we could still have a family and a life, but also do what we love. I think it'd be cool to be someone that travels to a game and can live wherever they want in the country and just get flown out the way that Aaron or Jenny or
Right.
Tracy Wolfson does. That's like the dream, right?
Right. Yeah, I definitely think being in this industry for a couple years now, the goal is always steady pay, growth, and some sort of work-life balance because
Right.
like it can be so consuming even if you're not working like on my off days instead of going outside and doing what makes me happy outside of work, I'm sitting, I'm sending emails, I'm trying to network, I'm updating my
Right.
reel and just figuring out a way to be content with where I'm at to be able to enjoy those other
Sure.
things. Like that's always a goal, but
Yeah.
you
The
can
grind
always
doesn't stop, right? Like my agent will be like, "Hey, I need a new reel. Can you send me something?" And then I'll also be like sending emails or doing podcasts or whatever it might be. And I love doing those things. But you're right, it's nice to like unplug for a little while.
What is the best piece of advice you have ever gotten that you would want to share with anybody in your position watching right now?
I don't know who said this. Maybe it's a mixture of advice that I've gotten, but a couple things. Be where your feet are. Like we were just talking about, the comparison game. It's so easy to be like, I want what they have, I want what she has, I want this life, I want this job. But if we're not present in what we're doing right now, we're not going to be good at what we're doing right now, and then we're not going to get to where we want to be. It's like you trap yourself. So a friend of mine too that works in the industry, Connor Onion, who's a play-by-play for Fox and really nice guy, lives in Chicago. He told me once at lunch, like, Kacy, the minute I stopped looking around, and like just zoned in, like laser focused on what I was doing, is when the new things started to come, right? Like he's doing like Fox Now and all these big things, but it wasn't until he really like honed in on, hey, don't look around, just kind of have tunnel vision right now and grind, and that's when things started to happen. So that's kind of the same method or message as be where your feet are, because if you're not in the moment, you're not going to, one, enjoy it, two, appreciate it, and three, you're not going to move up, because people are going to be able to tell that you have one foot in, one foot out, or you're kind of
Right.
thinking about other things. So that's what I would say.
I think that is something that even I need to remind myself of every day. I was once told by Rich Hollenberg, who's in the industry,
Yeah.
he says, don't have a plan B. Because when you have a plan B, that you'll automatically fall back on that or
That's a good
resort to
point.
that. So making this your priority, which I know you have, I have,
Mm-hmm.
and not settling for any less than what we want and what our dreams are,
Sure.
and combined with being where your feet are, I think that that's like a really important message that I try to work on day to day, and something that I always, whenever students ask me what I would tell them, I pass that message along. So I have to
Yeah.
add where your feet are to that, because I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side of what you just said, I once had a TV executive, when I sent him my reel, tell me to have a plan B. And that if it doesn't happen by the time I'm 30, to consider my plan B. And I remember getting off the phone and being like so upset. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is terrible. I was so distraught. And then I was kind of like, no, F that advice. Like, I'm going to keep going. I don't care if I'm 30 or whatever age, doesn't matter. Age is a number. We
Right.
see women in our industry at all ages. And so I was like, that's terrible advice. Like, maybe that's what he did. And so he's trying to convince other people, like, that's the route,
Right.
maybe. But I was just like, it kind of fueled me in a different way, you know?
We get a lot of no's in this industry. We get a lot of disappointment. And kind of the theme we've talked about, comparison and just competitiveness, but it's all about how you turn that into kind of fuel for everything. And just
Yeah.
like I asked you earlier, what's my why, or what's your why? My why sometimes is proving those people wrong. So
Right.
it depends.
Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. It always feels kind of good. I had a lot of people tell me that I wasn't going to make it in a top 10 market.
And look
And
at
so
you.
it's kind of like, hey, I did. So it feels good. And again, it's not out of spite, but it's just like, you believe in yourself and you believe in the people that are close to you. And again, that support system is really big. And it's so easy to get discouraged. I talk to students all the time who are discouraged and like defeated. But it's like, what if you quit now and then the next door you open is the one?
Right.
Like you could sit there and say, okay, if it doesn't happen by December, I'm done. Okay, well, what if it happens in January?
Yeah.
So I've just had a hard time quitting or
I
thinking
get
about
it.
quitting. I thought about it, sure. There's days where we're like, ugh, I'm out, I'm done. But then you're like, no, I'm not.
Well, speaking of support system, I know people can watch you on NBC5 Chicago. They
Yeah.
can follow you on social media. What are your handles? Where can people see all your work? Because it's amazing.
Yes. Anyone can watch NBC Chicago on our website with the 24/7 news little button there. It's blue. And I'm anchoring tomorrow night in the 5, 6, and 10. My Twitter, or X now, I guess I should say, is at Kacy Standohar, just my name. Instagram is at Kacy Stando, so it's a little bit shorter. But yeah, I'm always willing to help, whether it be like a LinkedIn message or a DM. Like, so many people helped me along the way, so I always want to try to give back and do the same. And I'm just so happy. Another advice before we finish up, I'm happy that you're doing this podcast and this show, because it's necessary. And another thing it does is it keeps you in it, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about, like, just find ways to stay in it. And you're doing that. And so you can always pitch this podcast to a network someday, or just have this in your back pocket if you need it. And in your downtime of not covering games, like until you're back doing that. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Well, I'm proud of you and
Yes.
everything you've
Thanks.
done. Thank you for coming on, and we have to do it again soon. It's been too long
Yes.
since we caught up like this.
I know. I loved it. It really was refreshing, and it helped set the tone for the weekend. So thank you.